Hello, welcome to my garage again. Well, what we can see, it could be quite embarrassing when you're gonna take a ride and entering the garage. You can see this. So oil leak refers to a worn out oil seal within the front fork, and this phenomenon is typical for Ducati Multistrada, so it's one of the so-called Ducati failures. Fortunately, I meet it after 4 years, while it's typical under the warranty period, but since I'm out of warranty, I need to do it by my own cost. So it's time to make a front fork renewal, I mean maintenance, replacing the oil, the seals and all the stuff that is needed to change when we make a suspension maintenance. So the front wheel is out. I did not record it because it's part of another video. The next step is to remove the front mudguard. On my bike it consists of two parts, an OEM mudguard and the back part, that's a mudguard extension, kind of splash shield. And as far as I heard, some of the factory guys in Bologna told that it's useful, but it looks like shit. So I bought it because it looks like a front mudguard extension. First part is to remove the extension itself. It's held by two screws. It's original screw on the front mudguard bracket. You can see that the space is quite tight here. So one of the screws are here, the other one is on the other side. It needs an Allen key size of 2 millimeters. The screws are unscrewed, but they cannot be removed due to the braking pipe. So, as a first move, let's disconnect the extension and see how we would remove it. Okay. This little one's still hooked. Okay, so now it's out. It's better to notice where all the pipes go, because this position is very important. Otherwise, the extension could touch the tire. But it counts when I reinstall it. So, extension is out. The mudguard is held by 4 screws. Needs Allen key size of 5 millimeters. As a first step, let's remove these 4 screws. There are nylon washers under the screws due to the plastic parts. It's not to harm them, so do not lose them. Same for the other side. There's a grip the whole way because there are thread locks applied.
So last up there's the accelerometer that's fixed to the front fork leg but supported by the front mudguard. So we need to remove these two screws. It needs Allen key size of 4 millimeters. No thread lock applied. So the accelerometer bracket has been detached from the fork leg, and it's important to do the same with the ABS sensor as well. As for the mudguard, there are two solutions. Either you remove it or leave it its place. So I decided to leave it because there's quite a mess for the cabling, and the forks can be removed without removing the mudguard out of the way. Under normal circumstances, the tank fairing and the fuel tank itself is removed for the front fork maintenance, because it needs to be done at every 30,000 kilometers. That's the same as for the Desmo service, and the Desmo service definitely needs the fuel tank to remove. But this maintenance is a kind of extraordinary one, because the main reason is the leaking oil seal. So I try to avoid removing the fuel tank. What we can see here in the middle of the picture is the connector of the left fork, the electronics. And technically it can be detached without removing the fuel tank. At least I tried. We'll see how it works. The suspension cable is out. It was easier than I expected without removing the fuel tank. I will see how hard it will be to reinstall. So after getting rid of all the equipment that holds the forks into position, the only thing left is to remove them and make the maintenance. Before you start anything and you fix the bike, make sure that you've got enough space down there to lower the forks. Otherwise, it would lead to bad surprises. So I checked it. I need 34 centimeters to reach the point here, and I've got 34 down there. So I'm lucky. I'm at the edge. But in a case it's necessary, I can pull it up for a few centimeters, of course, if I need it. There are 4 screws on both sides that holds the forks into position, 2 on the upper side and 2 on the lower side. It's very easy to release them, I think, because the tightening torque for the upper ones are 10 Newton meters and 60 Newton meters for the lower ones. And this is the first time I make this maintenance, so I start with the right side that doesn't contain any electronics. I have access to the upper screws through this hole between the fairings. They need an Allen key size 4. The lower one has got an easier access, also needs Allen key the size of 6 millimeters. For the lower one I have to attach a joint because the upper edge of the fuel tank is on the way. Now And the lower ones. Talking about 60 Newton meters and 10 for the upper one, so it's very easy to loosen these screws. This should be okay. Just a small piece of advice, since there is a grip on both of the fixation points, it's advised to pry out a little. I used a washer, a simple washer, to keep it in position, and some knocking around with a rubber mallet, and it makes the fork moving. Otherwise it's desperately stuck, so there is no way to pull it out by bare handle. Take care of not harming the painting. That's it. Smart solution. I think that the upper part of the fork has got a little less diameter than the lower one. So the next step would be a proper cleaning, since there are some parts, some corners of the fork for which there is no access when it's in position. It mainly contains dust, insect residues, other small debris, and I would like to avoid them to go inside during the maintenance. Left leg is next. Okay, tool is seated. Let's loosen it. That's done. Seems the fuel tank is a bit of asymmetric because I don't need the joint for the left side. And that's it. Same method. Washers are between small knocking. Let's see. Yes. Okay. Nicely. And the left leg is out as well. Cleaning has been finished. It's nice and clean now, ready for disassembly. I didn't make a record for the cleaning because everyone has its own cleaning style. This is not relevant from a front fork maintenance perspective. But I have to admit it that I think the best organic glue could be made of insects. So they are extremely resistant against removal, but I've managed to do it. So the fork is in the vise using this kind of special piece that holds the fork in position, tightened, and the table is not on its way. It's nice and clean. It's very important to clean them, especially for the sliding part. So you need to take care about not leaving any kind of residues, talking about insects or whatever that is stuck onto the surface, because during the maintenance the oil seal and the dust seals and their edges will move up and down, and in a case the debris is hard enough, it could damage the edge of the oil seal, and it's definitely what we'd like to avoid. Before removing the cap, release the preload. I use this kind of little piece of alloy tool for it. It's a manual, but it's soft enough as not to leave traces on the screw. I just left the last piece of movement, so it's up to the end. Now it's fully released. It's 10 turns from bottom to top, so now it's ready to remove the cap. To remove the cap, you need this special tool. Special in a way because the cap material is a relatively soft aluminum alloy. So it's made of plastic, so as not to harm the side of the cap. It's an aesthetical failure, of course, but it counts. The other one is that the cap has got 10 sides. So you cannot use the common socket wrench because it's got either 6 or 12. And it's sleeved up because for the other fork there is the electronic cable coming out, so it's similar to an oxygen sensor tool. So we need to apply it. It's quite a tight fit, don't be surprised, but no worries. It's a position, and the tightening torque is not too much, so it comes out relatively easy. So, first step is okay. Now there's a spring preload adjuster, and in the case you've got a hand, one of you needs to pull down this tube against the spring, because there is a nut and a lock nut, and in a case you wouldn't have a hand, you have to be smart. So I pulled it down, and I've put a 20mm wrench, because there's a rim on the upper side, fortunately, and now I've got access to the nut of the cap to loose. It's a 16mm. So let's see how it works. That's okay. So the cap is off. And now I need the strength to remove the wrench and release the spring. That's it. What you have to notice is the order of the element. Because that's the tube and that's the washer. And this white plastic part, so I leave them as they are. And now I can remove the spring. Of course it's full of oil. It will be cleaned. And the next step, I remove the fork and pour the used oil out. Okay, pouring out the old oil. That's dirty enough. It needs some pumping to get rid of the oil from the tube, from the fork. Okay. I consider it as emptied. The left leg disassembly is a bit different since it contains the active electronics. First we have to remove the cap. We need an Allen key for the removal of the cap. If we would leave it there, then when we remove this part, we would twist and damage the cable inside. So that's why we have to remove this plastic cap first. Seems fairly easy, but just take care of not to grab the cable with too much force, or let's avoid to grab the cable. Okay. That's it. The cap is off. There's a rubber block, mainly for insulation, to keep the moisture and the water out. So let's pull it off carefully. Will be enough for a while. So let's remove the cap, taking care of the cable. Okay. The O-ring has got a funny voice. Okay, it's out. The leg is supported. Yeah, it seems to be a nice spring-loaded fan again, but well, let's see how this spring load works. I have to pull it down, and I got the support. Okay, Then I need the same 90mm wrench to loosen the lock nut. The cap consists of three parts. There's the lower one, the lower part of the cap that's screwed into the upper part of the leg, and it's secured by a ring nut. Before you unscrew the cap assembly, I advise you to loosen the ring nut, because now the whole stuff in a fixed position, and it's easier to do it than later holding it in a handle or put it to a vise. So we need a special tool for it to hold the cap, and then use this wrench or a 38mm wrench if you had it. Unfortunately, I haven't got it. Okay, that's it. It's been loosened. And then let's unscrew the cap. Okay, nice. Right. Then let's separate the upper and the lower part. Okay, the upper and lower part are separated. There's an O-ring inside as well, and you need to remove the ring nut as well, because otherwise you would not be able to remove the spring. There's a washer on top of the spring to remove, and then you can remove the spring itself. So I need to pour out the oil. It contains significantly less than the right side. No, that's it.
So separating the inner and the outer sleeve are identical for the two forks. First we remove the dust seal, then the circlip that holds or secures the oil seal in position, and after that there's the detach process itself.
To remove the dust seal, first we remove the spring to make make it easier to slide. That's it. Then I use a flat screwdriver with the plastic tape on it so as not to harm the painting. That's it. Okay, that's out. There's a circuit inside. It also needs to be removed to get access, partially to get access to the oil seal and to pull it out. Okay. After the circlip has been removed, I'm able to stretch the fork, and there's a hit. This is the bushing. When the bushing hits the other piece of bushing and it pushes the oil seal. Now we can separate the two parts either by using a brute force, sometimes one movement is enough, or we can use the thermal expansion. The outer sleeve is made of aluminium. If I warm it up, it's a little bit expanded, and it's easier to separate the two parts. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, it's warm enough now. Now a little knock work. And that's it. Parts are separated. This is the oil seal that was leaking. So I will definitely check the surface, the edge surface, after removing. Since the two inner sleeves are identical, we need to perform the same process for all of them. So we have to note the order of the elements, the seals and the bushings. You can use this video or take a shot, or if you've got some service material, you can use it as well. So let's remove them. Start with the inner sleeve bushing. It contains Teflon on the outer side, and this is the element that's fixed to the inner sleeve, and it moves inside the outer sleeve. I use a small flat screwdriver to open it and remove it from the sleeve. It's much softer material than the sleeve itself, but yeah, I take care of it gently. So it's out. The next is the bushing that's fixed to the outer sleeve, and it contains the Teflon in the inner side, and the inner sleeve slides in it. So washer is out. Oil seal, the dust seal, and its spring. So same process for the other inner sleeve. So interesting stuff. In most cases, the bushings and the Teflon coating looks totally perfect when the maintenance period comes. So sometimes we can apply them back, but frankly speaking, we don't know. I don't know what is the thickness of the Teflon coating. So what is the thickness? What is the coating left? But for this bushing, I experienced a clear wear. If you can see, the Teflon coating exists here, but in this part it's totally disappeared. So I can see the copper. I don't know what is the reason. Maybe there is no parallel movement within the fork, but I don't know. It will turn out when the next maintenance comes. If the bushing looks exactly the same, then there is some kind of mechanical issue in the back. For the last fork, the bushings were quite in a good shape. There was no sign of the wear on the Teflon. There's a minor scratch, but it might happen during the disassembly. And the other one seems also to be okay, but I've replaced them. As for the leaking seal, I've checked it with the loupe, but I haven't found any sign of damage or anything. Most probably there was some dirt went inside, maybe from the oil, and it made the seal leaking, but later it stopped. So I've replaced it also. Now it's time to assemble the fork. For that we need, in a case we use an OEM part, there's an overhaul kit you can order from Ducati, but for some unknown reason one of the bushings is missing from this overhauling kit, so you need to order it separately. These bushings are on the sleeves, the inner and the outer sleeves, and they've got a special coating, PTFE coating, the common name is Teflon, that creates a low friction and lubricated by the fork oil. In this case, this is Pyrex, not a fork oil, an automatic transmission fluid. And these are the bushings on which the sleeve is moving up and down. So this one, coated on the outside, goes to the inner, on the inner sleeve, and this one goes to the outer sleeve inside here. And there are the seals, the oil seal. There's a washer to support the bottom of the oil seal, the circlip that holds the oil seal on position, and the dust seal that's at the end of the outer sleeve. And this ring is on the damper on the inside. Before I put the seals on, please be careful, because there are holes and grooves with relatively sharp edges, and it might damage the edge of the seal if you are not careful enough. There are special stuff for that. Sometimes you can buy a tube with very thin wall that fits on the sleeve, but I'm going to use a soft tape that covers the edges and protects the edge of the seal. First element is the dust seal. I remove the spring to reduce the grip of the edge. Apply it on. That's it. And I lubricate the sliding edges of the seals. You can use some common mounting grease, or you can use the same lubricant you use for the fork. In this case, this Shell's Pyrex stuff. Quite stinky. The oil seal is a double-edged one, so there are two edges to lubricate. Okay. Next is the dust seal. Try to careful as possible. Okay, it's on. Going down. Nice. Then there's the oil seal coming. Or yeah, I apply the circlip first. You can do it separately by stretching it out, but not necessary. When you install the oil seal, please careful that there are two springs, and this is the lower end. This is the bottom side of the oil seal, so you need to install it this way. So, technically we are okay with the sensitive parts. The rest of them are metal, and their position is at the end of the fork, at least for this bushing. This one is sliding up and down on the sleeve, no worries about it, but please try to avoid to be in this part, because the edge of this hole, however, are likely to be, but it might scratch the Teflon coating, and I would like to avoid it. Washing is on. I also lubricate the sliding surface. And then I remove the tapes, because we don't need them anymore. Simply need to stretch out the bushing. And there we are, it's in position. It will also be lubricated. Carefully insert it. For a while there is no polished part of the tube. Now you can feel some slight resistance. Now the bushing is in its position. Now we can apply the next. These elements are basically installed with a tight fit. So either we apply some force, or we can use the thermal expansion, because it's our friend now. This one this piece, the outer sleeve, is made of some aluminum alloy, and this tube is made of steel. And we can use that the fact that the thermal expansion ratio of the aluminum is higher than the steel. So in a case I warm it up, it expands more than the steel tube, and it makes the installation of these ones, the seals, the bushing, easier. I don't use a heat gun because the temperature of the heat gun is too much, so it might damage the painting or harm the soft rubber parts. So I use a simple hair dryer. That's enough. It's warm enough, and we can install the oil seal. We can use that sort of special tool. It's a 3D printed copy of the original one, but it will definitely make its work. Need some heat, and you need to check from time to time whether the groove of the circlip is visible. It's perfect. Initially I use my hand for circlip installation. In later phase I might need a screwdriver for it. Okay, and let's support it with a screwdriver. Take care about the inner sleeve and the oil seal. It's not to harm the surfaces. It's in position. So if you can hear the click, then the job is done. Double check. It's in position. And the last step is the dust seal installation. You can use the special tool for it, but I don't advise it because the diameter, at least for my tool, doesn't suit for the outer rim of this seal. Maybe I will make another one that fits. Don't forget that in that face there is nothing to hold the inner sleeve, so if you release it, it simply falls down, and due to the holes it might harm the edges of the seal, so you need a support. I use a Bose Acoustimus subwoofer as a support, but it makes it. As for oil, it needs 642 plus minus 5 cubic centimeter for the right leg, as the service manual says. In the user manual you can find 647, so I will find middle way 645 and it's done. Since I've got a 500 cubic centimeter stuff, I start with 300. And then I fill in the rest. And the rest of the fluid will go. Hold it for a while the last drops. You can go into the fork. Okay, consider it as empty. The amount of the oil has got effect on the damping force. The more the oil, the bigger the force. So okay, let's install the spring. It's not a progressive one, so both end fits to the bottom. Okay, and this is when the fun begins, because I have to pull out the damping rod, put the preload tube on it, and push it down. These pieces are in the overhaul kit. This white cap ring, whatever we call it, goes to the end of the tube, and there is the washer that supports the spring, and this will be the final position. Now we have to I have to push down the spring and pull out the damper rod to get access to the support nut. So that's it. Sorry for not recording it, but I needed the space in my hands. What I did is that I've pulled out the damping rod through the spring. Then, fortunately, it stops on the position for a while. So I applied the pre-force tube, grabbed it, pulled it down, and I put the wrench into this supporting nut. And now we can install the cap. Please consider that you have to grab the black part, because in the case you are going to turn this one, it will turn over, because this is for the spring preload. Again, we need the 20mm wrench for the lock nut and the 16mm wrench for the preload nut. So let's fix it. For a while I was able to turn it by hand, but then there's a resistance, I suppose some kind of spring mechanism or similar. I don't know what's inside. Okay, there is no torque given, so let's fit it tight, but not too tight, since these components are made of aluminium. Obviously we would like to avoid to damage them. Then that's it. It's in position. Okay, final step is to fit the cap. For that I remove the support below the fork and lower it. Okay, it works, and now we need a special tool. I will turn it in by hand. Just watching when the O-ring hits the edge. Okay, That's the moment when the socket wrench comes. Okay, that's it, 20 Newton meters. The left fork needs significantly less amount of oil inside. However, in the Ducati documents I found two different values. The service manual says 252 plus minus 5 cubic centimeters, while the user manual and the maintenance part of the Ducati service manual says 277 cubic centimeter. So I adjusted it to 270 just to be on the safe side. So let's fill it in. After the oil is filled up, let's install the spring. It was easier to disassemble it. And the washer on top of the spring. So let's assemble the cap. For that, first we install the ring nut. The ring nut position could be important, otherwise it's difficult to hit the upper part wall with the lower one. When you check it closely, you can see then there is where the thread begins, and on the other side there is some 1–1.5 millimeter part without the thread, so you can see the wall only. So that one should point down. So screw it in manually up till it stops, and then let's install the upper one. For that we need the mounting tool. And the 9mm wrench. So let's turn it in up till the top of the lower one hits the bottom of the upper one. That's it. And then fix the ring nut. Okay, that's done. Well, this is the two-man's job, but in a case you are alone and you don't have a support, of course you can do it, but it needs some force to pull the spring down first. And then put the wrench into position. That's okay. And now screw in cap Same as for the other fork, there is no tightening torque given. You just simply need to fix them together. Taking care of the cable. That's it. It's on this position. Let's pull down the spring, remove the wrench, release it. Take care of the washer to be in the proper position. Okay, so that's it. This next step, let's lower the suspension. Thanks for both for the great support. And then let's click back. Now I can feel the grip, so the O-ring hits the wall. This cap also needs 20 Newton meters tightening torque set. Done. The last step is the cap installation. For that first, let's pull this rubber block back. It's a proper position, it sits, because you can turn it a little, but I think it's obvious how to install it. Then push the cap back. As for the screw, there is no tightening torque given, neither thread lock applied, so let's use a nice but effective hand grip for that. Okay. Before you reinstall the forks, don't forget to apply the washer to the bottom yoke and the steering head as well by stretching them a bit out. Otherwise you would not be able to put the forks into position because the grip is too tight for that. And also don't forget that there are two different diameters for the bottom yoke and the steering head. The steering head diameter is 1 millimeter less on the fork than the bottom yoke position. The left fork is the more difficult one, because first I have to pull through the cable. That's okay now. Carefully can install it first. It's a proper position, it's not to scratch. Anything. Okay. support in the side helps me to find the proper height, but of course it needs to be aligned. Fortunately, there is any grip that you can, for releasing the fork, it will not fall down. Upper groove matches to the edge. Perfect. For the height of the fork, you can use different settings, but as a factory one, an OEM one, you use it in a way that the upper groove in the fork directly matches with to the top end of the steering head. So due to the gap on the steering head, you can see the groove of the fork, so it makes it easier to position it in a good way. There are measurements in the service material that defines a distance from the top end of the middle section of the bottom yoke and the top of the fork, but frankly speaking, there are quite a distance between them, and you definitely not have any access before without dismantling the whole front section of the bike. The tightening torque is 10 Nm for the steering head screws, the upper ones. Let's use a 1-to-1 pattern. That means that after a rigid torque, for both of the screws, finish the lower one. This is the upper one. Let's repeat it. Because then the lower one is loosened. 10 Nm again. Go back to the upper screw. 10 Nm. And that's it. There is no further movement but the clicks. Bottom yoke screws, we need 60 Nm. Set. Battery is the same. Finished. After the fork service has done, don't forget to set the preload back, because it was released during the disassembly just to ease on the spring load, but then you need to set it up again. The factory setting is 1 turn in. On my bike I set 4 turns in from the 10. So there are maximum 10 turns you could use. For finishing the fourth service, let's install the mudguard. As a first step, we fix the accelerometer bracket. my 2 screws. It's an Allen key size of 4 millimeters. Its tightening torque is 5 Newton meters, plus minus 10%. Okay, it's done. For the front mudguard, I need the factory screws. Don't forget the nylon washers, and I use a small drop of light thread lock like Loctite 222. Small amount is enough. Second one. Okay, tightening torque is 5 Newton meters. That's it, same for the other side. Before you assemble the front mudguard with the extension, it's worth to check the brake line between the 2 calipers that goes under the back section of the mudguard, because you can see some traces of wearing. It's due to the fact that it has got contact to the plastic parts, and in a case of vibration, bumpy roads, anything, after a while, after a certain kilometers or so, the plastic coating starts to wear out. That's what I can see here now after 45,000 kilometers. But it might happen that due to extreme conditions, the whole brake line is damaged in a way that even the metal layer below the plastic is also damaged. So that's why it's important to check it when you've got a tire change, you've got a front fork service. It's worth to check if the brake line is intact or it's got some kind of wearing out, some damage on the coating. It's not a big deal, it's a small section, it's not expensive, so you can easily replace it by a new one. When you install this front mudguard extension, it's important that the tabs on the extension fits to the tabs on the front mudguard. So this is the position. So when you hook up the brake line, the top section, it's important that you lead the brake line below the tabs, because this is the only way to make the tabs fit together. And the additional cables will be fixed by this clamp. So let's see how to position it. It's difficult because the visibility is quite poor, so you need to watch several things while you install it, and the brake lines are quite hard. So it's more or less in position. of the tab is okay, and I can check the other one on the other side. That's also in position, and now we have to put the screws to the hole. That's quite difficult due to the limited space caused by the brake lines. Before we make the screws tightened, let's make a final check. Tabs are in position on both sides. And the edge is running smooth. That's in the installation instruction that we have to take care of that. Let's check it on the other side. Seems okay as well. The tightening torque for the screws is 3.5 Newton meters. But you've got limited access to the screws. Okay, let's go to the other side. We've got two extra lines here and poor visibility. Newton meters, and there's a clamp for the lines. I found a reasonable position for the clamp. We need to close it, and that's all. After the wheel installation, we still need to check the extension. There's a gap defined as 10 mm between the tire and the edge of the extension. So we will see it